Okay, should be recording. All right, it is November 10th, 2020, currently 8:57 p.m. All right, so what is your name? And share some of the demographic information.
8:57 p.m. Central Time Zone.
Oh, yeah.
My name is Wyatt Weisensel. I am a white 26-year-old male in and from Wisconsin.
All right. Um, where were you when you first heard about coronavirus?
So I was in Japan at the time. I was teaching English as sort of a gap year
Hmm.
in between software development jobs. Um, I was in um, Fukuoka Prefecture in a city called Kama. Um, I don't remember the exact first time I heard about it. I think it was at my middle school. A teacher who I talked to a lot knew a little bit of English. He just, I remember him telling me one day, oh, there's this virus in China, and
Hmm.
kind of keeping an eye on it. That's all it really was. And I think stuff like this had kind of happened before and it was contained.
Okay, so no one seemed worried about it. Like
No,
no one had any idea what scale it would become.
no.
Okay. So your initial reaction was nothing to worry about.
Right.
Like you weren't going to like go home and do some research on it or anything.
No.
Okay. So what region of Japan was that city in?
Uh, Down south, Kyushu, which is the southernmost main island,
Okay. What's like the nearest largest city to where you
uh,
were?
Fukuoka.
Okay. So then how did like so the teacher you were working with told the students about it, or were the students really aware what was going on?
This was in the break room, not in front of students.
Oh, okay. So as far as you're aware, did students know about Corona?
Not as far as I'm aware. Not that I would have asked
Okay. Um, let's
because of the
see.
language barrier.
Right.
And like I said, I didn't think it was a big deal. I don't think that ever would have occurred to me as a topic.
Uh, so Corona didn't really affect your work environment, or did it
Um,
change over time?
so um, trying to think about when I first heard about it. I want to say it was everyone was like, "Oh, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal."
Hmm.
And then oh, they found and like, oh, there's some cases in Japan. Um, wear your mask, which everyone in Japan kind of does anyways, even before all of this. That's just what they do. And a lot of, I don't think it's just Japan. I think a lot of Asian countries do that.
It's just
Um,
because of air pollution.
Air pollution.
Hmm.
I have a Japanese friend. She would wear it if she wasn't wearing makeup that day or something like that. If you're sick, people would wear them.
Hmm.
So they were already kind of doing that. But then, kind of all of a sudden, um, they closed all the schools for the last, um, I think, 2 weeks.
Is that in March?
Yeah, I remember my last 2 weeks of work. I had to report to my schools.
Hmm.
I didn't have any classes to teach.
Because the students were all at home.
Right.
Okay.
The middle school, I had not, I was just desk warming. Um, my elementary schools, I had a little bit to do. They were kind of doing daycare for kids who
Okay.
parents had to work.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was it for my last 2 weeks of work. And I remember that being pretty controversial. Um, yeah, I think I remember reading some news articles. People felt it kind of came out of nowhere that the Japanese government shut all the schools down nationwide for the last 2 weeks of the semester.
Hmm.
And um, while I came home at the end of March, not because of coronavirus, but because my 1 year was up at that time. It's just the way it worked out.
Hmm.
It sounded like from my friends who I keep in touch with that they started making up classes over the summer and stuff.
Okay. Um, did you, so once schools closed down, I know you didn't have contact with a lot of students, but in the students you were in contact with, could you tell that they were worried about it in any way?
No, I
Okay.
don't think students were worried about it.
Did the other teachers or your coworkers feel like something
Mm,
bad was going to happen?
no, I don't think so.
Okay. Then
I
with,
feel like people were more stressed out about their jobs and livelihood and how their schedules were being affected more than
okay.
the virus itself.
So was it only the schools that were shut down, or did the nation itself shut down, like businesses having to change the way, people could like go to restaurants and everything? Or was it strictly just schools?
Just the schools.
Okay.
Um, People are kind of staying home, but I remember so I, the 2 weeks of school where I didn't have anything to do because they were shut down.
Hmm.
And then I had 2 weeks kind of to myself before my flight to
Hmm.
go home. And I traveled during that time. And although I was mostly doing hiking and stuff outside, but we still went to some restaurants and some hotels. So stuff was open. There's just less
Okay.
people.
Was there any call for social distancing like there was in the US?
Um, yeah, there was. I believe so. Because I remember people being like, how are we gonna like be around kids but still stay away from them and
Hmm.
stuff like that. But I don't know, not much. So I remember during the last 2 weeks, like the daycare stuff for the elementary schools, like we weren't making the kids social distance.
Okay. But did the students have to wear masks in class?
Um, I don't think so.
Oh, wow, okay. But was there like was a government telling people to wear their masks when out in public?
I'm not sure. See, that's tricky because everyone kind of does that anyways.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Now that I think about it, no, no one is really wearing masks around each other at school.
Okay.
Or no, I think they were. It probably just varied school to school.
Okay.
I'm
Kind
starting to recall, at least at one school, always wearing it.
of. Okay. Kind of depends on the school administration and how they wanted to enforce it.
Right.
Okay. So then, while you were in Japan, the US kind of went on lockdown, and the US government told everyone to stay home for 2 weeks. Do you remember hearing about how Corona was affecting the United States while you were in Japan?
Uh, See, at that point in time, everyone was still trying to say, "Oh, this isn't going to be a big deal.
Hmm.
Um, it's going to go away." I remember Donald Trump definitely talked that way,
Right.
but even the experts were like, "Hey, okay, if we act now, we can contain this."
Hmm.
Um, so no one was really worried about it back in March, I don't think.
In the US that you felt like?
Well, I don't think so, no.
Okay. So when you had to come back to the United States, was there any difficulty in getting, an airplane ticket to come to the US and getting on an
Yeah,
airplane and going to
so
the
when
airport?
I started trying to get back home, then that's when I was like, okay, this might be a lot more serious,
Hmm.
or maybe I wasn't watching the news enough. Um, I originally bought a flight back in like December, like 3, 4 months before I needed to leave, and I was going to have a layover in Taiwan.
Hmm.
Um, but then Taiwan um, banned all air travel, even just layovers.
Hmm.
And so my flight was canceled. And I found out about that on the news on my phone.
Oh, really?
I didn't get an alert from the airline.
Hmm.
Um, did some research and found out that, yeah, it was everything was so crazy that the airlines weren't even really like alerting people. People, I think they were going to their airport and stuff and just
Hmm.
being told to go away. Um, so I canceled that, and I had like a week to get a new ticket.
Hmm.
Wound up like, but airlines were doing, they were being lenient on cancellations and stuff.
Okay.
So I canceled that, got my money back. Then I had a flight that was going to take me into Canada for a layover. But then I was worried about Canada shutting down
Hmm.
the US border or something. So then I canceled that and got a ticket that took me from Tokyo to Houston, right into the
Hmm.
USA. And that's what I used to get home. Um, yeah, the flight from Fukuoka to Tokyo is pretty normal. Hard to say. It's not like I'd been in that airport before. But I
Right.
remember Tokyo to America, big international flight like that, that was like dead. Um,
Really?
yeah, normally those flights and those airports are terrible to be in.
Hmm.
This was completely dead. I had on the flight, I had all three seats to myself. I could lie down. Just about everyone did. That's unheard of. Most people pay very good money to get a business class or something in order to be able to lie down. Um, Even TSA was super chill and like laughing and joking with people as they were checking stuff through
Oh, yeah. That's interesting.
in Houston. Yeah, I remember at the Houston airport getting to my next flight, Houston to Chicago. Well, I rode like their train completely alone.
Oh, wow.
Waiting staff, that was it.
Hmm. Like, was anyone taking your temperature at all at the airports?
No, and I wasn't quarantined or anything.
Okay.
No temperature checks.
But everyone was wearing masks though, right?
Uh, yeah, maybe not everyone, but pretty close. I think so.
Okay. So then, were you kind of shocked at how different the US was reacting to Corona versus Japan, with how everyone in the US was staying home and quarantining at the time that you came back to the US versus Japan, where everyone seemed to be kind of going about their normal everyday lives for the most part?
I think stuff is really starting to shut down in Japan towards the very end of my stay, and I was focused on getting moved out, not
Mhm.
going
Right.
out anyways. So it's hard to say. I know, like a couple of weeks after I got back, Japan didn't let people come back in.
Hmm.
Um, Actually, when I left Japan, there's an immigration officer who you talk to. You give him your visa, and he asks you, "Are you coming back, or are you out of here for good?" I had some jobs I applied to at the time that I was waiting to hear back from. I told him I was coming back,
Oh, really?
and he was just like, "Yeah, okay," like normal. It's like
Hmm.
no, even if I had gotten an offer, I would have been banned.
Yeah,
They don't
right.
let people come from the U.S. Um, Another interesting thing too is they didn't have they see people weren't sure what numbers to believe, because at least at that time, um, people were thinking, "Oh, is China even giving us the real numbers?
Hmm.
It could be the Black Plague over there, and they're just lying to the world."
Right.
All these countries do stuff like that. Japan too, to an extent, people were wondering how much they were really telling the rest of the world. I
Hmm.
think. Um, I haven't, I never heard a single thing about like hospitals being filled up in Japan ever. Um, but I think because they wear masks all the time pretty normally anyways, I think they just weren't hit that hard.
Hmm.
They just weren't like we were. They kind of just wore their masks and stayed home as much as they could
Hmm.
and then went away.
So would you
Nobody took anything.
say that the would you say that the Japanese government handled the pandemic better than the Trump administration?
Oh, definitely. It probably seemed like an overreaction at first, but I'm sure they're not regretting things like
Mhm.
shutting down schools now.
Right. Um, in Japan, was there what kind of backlash was there initially towards the government like telling people to wear masks or to shut down the country? Because like in the US, you have people protesting against like wearing masks and social distancing. Was there anything like that happening in Japan that you know of?
No, not at all.
Okay. Do you think you would have been better off staying in Japan to like ride out the pandemic in that country versus coming back home to the US?
Um, Up until I managed to get this job, I was thinking, yeah, I totally could have stayed in Japan for another year and it wouldn't have
Hmm.
hurt anything.
Well, what would you have like continued with your teaching job, or would you have gotten a job someplace else if you would have stayed?
Through lack of options, I probably would have stayed in a teaching job, but I probably would have kept applying for software jobs, see what would happen or something.
Okay, yeah, right, yeah. Um, so then, how has the pandemic affected trying to find a job in the US? Did you think that without the pandemic, you still would have had a hard time trying to find a job that you would have liked?
Um, well, I kind of had. nothing for like 4 or 5 months,
Hmm.
3, 4 months, and then the interviews started coming in again. I think in like August maybe. Businesses, at least for software, which has never really been too affected by this because it's an office job, we can work remotely.
Hmm.
For us, um, it seemed like when businesses were kind of like, all right, this isn't going away anytime soon. We're just going to have to resume as normal as much as we possibly can.
Right.
Because I remember I got this job, and like after I accepted, all of a sudden, a bunch of companies I had applied to, good companies, wanted to interview me.
Hmm.
It's like, why couldn't you have done this a month ago? I already took a job.
Hmm. So do you think that is a kind of a part of the kind of national feeling of fatigue towards the pandemic, that everyone's just kind of sick and tired of social distancing and businesses shutting down? So everyone now is kind of ignoring it. Do you think that fatigue affected how businesses were then just going back to more regular hiring practices?
Yeah, I think so. I
Okay.
think maybe it started with the businesses and then everyone else followed.
Right.
Businesses started getting more lax about their mask policies and stuff. So then people were like, okay, it's not as big of a deal anymore, evidently.
Hmm.
So now we're all kind of ignoring it.
Right. So then, how's the pandemic affected your current job environment? Also, what job do you have currently?
Um, so I'm a software developer at Orbis Corporation. They make plastic totes
Mm.
um, for a lot of industrial uses. So a lot of car companies use our products to, they'll have like a bin of um, headlights or whatever car parts, and they're going through their factory. And then at the end, the tote, well, we made it and sold it to them, but we'll also be responsible for getting that tote back to suppliers to fill back up with car parts.
Hmm.
So the software I'm writing, it's kind of logistics software for managing where containers are at any given moment and the best way to load them into a semi truck so that it can make an efficient route,
Right.
stuff
Okay.
like
So then, how has the pandemic affected your current job environment?
that. Well, we're all working from home.
Hmm.
So they have a corporate office here that I would normally be at with like 200 something people,
Hmm.
but everyone's just working from home. Um, and Zoom, Microsoft Teams. Um, Tomorrow they do like company events and stuff. You
Hmm.
know, they're trying to do some of that via Zoom. So
Okay.
something tomorrow will be interesting to see how that goes.
Hmm.
Because yeah, I'm the first person they've onboarded this way. Um,
Okay.
so like, man, my coworkers are all people I've barely seen in person, if at all. I don't even know what some of them look like.
Have you been required to go into the office at all and work with anyone in person, or it is
Did
completely
that on like my first day. That's it.
okay?
So unless I need to like pick something up, like I had to get a barcode scanner
Hmm.
to test some software with once. That's it.
Do you like working from home, or do you wish you could go into an office and have that, like space to focus in versus at home?
I would prefer being in the office for
Hmm.
the reasons you just mentioned. And it's
Right.
easier to communicate with people too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I run into situations where like you message someone because you need something answered so you can keep working on whatever it is you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're like, okay, are they at their desk? Are they in the meeting? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to answer this in 30 seconds? Should I just wait for a bit? Or is it going to be 20 minutes? Should I
Mm-hmm.
go do something else for a bit until they get back to me?
Right. Do you know if anyone at work has gotten COVID?
Um, I want to say a few people have, but to the best of my knowledge, it never became a big deal. They kind of just quarantined.
Okay, so like the
I don't even know
company,
if they would have taken off for work. They're already working remotely.
right? So the company didn't have to do anything major because of that.
Mm.
Okay. Um, then, um, have there been any other challenges that you faced during the pandemic outside of you guys trying to find a job in the middle of a global pandemic?
Um, I mean, it's harder to socialize. I've been wanting to join a gym, but apparently that's not fun to do right now because you have to wear a
Right.
mask.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't done that. Um, that's it really.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think with working from home, well, so I moved into a new apartment too for
Mm-hmm.
the job. So now I'm trying to furnish an apartment and buy stuff during this pandemic. So like I have a couch that's taken 3 months so far. It's not going to come until December 19th.
Mm-hmm. And that's just because of the global supply chain being affected by the pandemic.
Yep. And some bad luck because I know people who've bought furniture as well and they haven't had that extreme of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Mine at least. Yeah. This one.
All
So
right.
why did you even sell it to me? What point are you just out of stock?
Uh,
Um, what else was hard to get? Some canned food was hard to get. Remember that?
mm,
Was making one of her casseroles or something and it wasn't right. And she said she had to buy different vegetables for it.
oh, I don't know. I might have not been home for that.
I doubt it was a true shortage. It's probably people panic buying again, like they were with toilet paper. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was an American thing.
Yeah. Did anything like that happen in Japan? Or
Um, Maybe very briefly.
okay.
I brought home some toilet paper.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
Oh,
remember.
you couldn't buy masks
Where? In the US?
in Japan.
Okay.
Um, well, everyone was buying them up. Um, I even remember in February, I traveled to Osaka. A friend was going to help me apply to some jobs
Hmm.
at a place called Hello Work, kind of like their unemployment office. Um, I was like, oh, I need to pick up some masks, and I couldn't find any.
Oh,
And I think even in February, it's still, yeah, I want to say in February, everyone was wearing their masks. but that was it. No one really thought it was a big deal. And
Hmm.
people kind of wear the mask anyways. They're just kind of like, oh, nasty flu of some kind's going around. I'll be diligent on my mask wearing,
Right.
whatever. That's all it was at that point.
Hmm.
Yeah, I took a ferry up to Osaka, and that was pretty full. Yeah, nothing was really shut down. Went to the Pokemon store there. I think that was mid, if not late February.
Okay. And where do you see COVID going now? Do you think with the presidential election going the way that it did, do you think we're going to see another government lockdown or government mandated lockdown?
I really don't know. I feel like it's too late. I mean, it's
Hmm.
out. 200, what, 230,000 people died.
Right.
It's too late.
Do you think
Everyone's just gonna have to wear masks and social distance and
just
hopefully
ride
better.
it out?
But everyone already knows that.
Right. So you don't think there's anything besides social distancing and mask wearing we can do to help keep numbers down and to keep it from spreading?
I don't think so. That's
Mm.
exactly what you need to do. It's a virus.
Well, right.
Wear your mask, social distance, and it won't spread as much.
Hmm. Do you think places like restaurants and bars need to close down so people don't have as much reason to go out and be together in large groups?
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant by like it's too late. They'd have to really permanently shut down and then probably go out of business.
Hmm.
If we had just done that back in like March, maybe
Right.
really have shut down, I wouldn't be in this mess.
Hmm. All right. Think we should call it there then. All right. Well, thanks
All
for
right.
talking.